Hi, welcome to edsguitarlessons.com. I'm here today to teach you about the major scale. Not one of the most important. It is the important. It's the foundation stone of music in Western culture. Basically, it's the do-re-mi scale. Do-re-mi-fa-sol. Versus the scale. That was the A major scale. All of Westernized music is referenced to that scale. You've heard of a D7, right? Did you ever wonder where the number 7 comes from? The number 7 from of a D7 chord is the flatted 7th note of the D major scale. A suspended 4th. That number comes from the 4th note of the major scale. How about a D9? That of course is a triad, but the 9th chord, or the 9th note, the 9th number comes from a scale. It comes from the 9th note of the major scale of the chord that we're talking about. So when I teach my classes to my students here at edsguitarlessons.com, I teach music theory. I teach them the importance of the major scale and help them to understand that it is the foundational scale that everything else is derived from. And that I call it the Rosetta Stone. I don't know if I've coined that in this particular area of education, but it is like the Rosetta Stone because we understand all the other chords, all the other scales in reference to, it's like the ruler, if you will, we reference back to the major scale. We don't reference back to the, natural minor scale. We don't reference back to, well, it's, from the minor pentatonic. Even the minor pentatonic scale, the easy scale that everyone learns in the very beginning, is from the major scale. It's actually a portion of the major scale. They arranged it a little differently. They use the root, whatever note, like an A, and then you go to a flatted third note, the flatted third of the major scale, 4, 5, flat 7, and then you're back to your octave. But that's the 5 notes of the pentatonic scale. So really, if you can get the grasp of that concept, that the major scale is the basis of understanding our music, the do-re-mi scale, then you'll understand that very high percentage of our music today is based upon that scale. I would say, at least 95 plus. And in one way or another, no matter where it comes from, we can still reference it back, no matter if it's some kind of exotic scale from a Eastern country or Oriental style music. Many those notes too can be referenced back, most of them, to understanding them from the concept of the major scale. Many of you have heard of the term modes, where we have the Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, so on. Those are a hybrid of, guess what? The major scale. The Dorian scale, okay, say for instance we play G, the G major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, da. The next mode in sequence, there's 7 modes. The next one in line in sequence is the Dorian mode. These are Greek terms, okay? I talk about that in my lessons, my classes. But do you know what the Dorian mode is? The Dorian mode is basically starting, guess what? The major scale on the 2nd note. Instead of starting on G, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, da, you start on not do but re, Re, da, 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 da. You go from re to the next, or from A to the next A. Okay? Guess what? The next mode is Phrygian. It starts on the B note. G, A, B. And so, do, re, mi. It starts on the mi note if you want to look at it that way. So it goes from mi to the next mi. Okay? And that's the Phrygian mode. And all 7 modes basically come from the major scales, starting them in the next, in sequence from the next note of the major scale. So technically, the modes basically are hybrids of the major scale, just starting on the next note, depending on which mode. The 5th mode is the Mixolydian mode. It's always 5. It's not 3. It's not 2. It's not 1. Mixolydian is always the 5th mode. And it starts on the 5th note of the major scale. So you can see the importance of the major scale. We get our modes from it. We get the understanding of a particular scale in number form, in the Roman numeral form. You know, you get the 1. You've heard of a 1, 4, 5 progression, right? Where did that come from? 1, 4, 5. The major scale. The 1, 4, 5 in G is G, you all know this, a C, and a D. And we call that a 1, 4, 5. Where'd the numbers come from? The major scale. G is 1, A is 2, B is 3, C is 4. There's our 4, and D is 5. The 5th note of the major scale. So that's where we get the 1. Tequila. No, sorry. Yeah, so 1, 4, 5, you know, let me say this, I'm going to close with this thought. Anytime you have a number, whether it's a 9th, a 13th, a flatted 3rd, a flatted 5th, you know, to make a major chord, a minor chord, there's only one thing you have to do to make a major chord into a minor chord. One thing. You flatten the 3rd. That's it. You just flatten the 3rd note of that particular chord. And so what is the 3rd note? Where did they get number 3 from? What's that all about? It's the 3rd note of the major scale of the chord you're discussing. So in the case of C, if I did the major scale in C, starting here on the 8th fret, and I went 1, 2, 3. There's our 3rd note, and we flatten it, and that is what we do to make a C minor chord. Okay? From a C major chord. You can hear the difference. You hear the flatted 3rd. But anytime you hear a number, no matter what number it is, it comes from the major scale. So we have the major scale. We have the minor pentatonic. That is derived from the major scale, notes from the major scale. And we have the modes, all 7 modes. You have, I don't care what scale you come up with. They're derived, they're referenced back to understanding as a Rosetta Stone the major scale. So that's part of what I teach when I teach theory to my students here at edsguitarlessons.com. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it whets your appetite to understand music theory, because to be a composer or songwriter, to understand improvisation of soloing of guitars, you must know scales, you must know the major scale, you must know the concept and how it works across your fretboard. I teach my students how to play the entire fretboard with 5 scales, using 5 scales from the major scale. And then I teach them how to use the entire fretboard using 5 scales, or the 5 positions of the minor pentatonic. And I guarantee them, I say, with that, you can play 97-95% of all music that's out there with one of those two different, I call them tool bags. Understanding there's a major, modal tool bag that is derived from the major scale that you can use for certain types of music. And then there's a minor pentatonic blues type tool bag that you use to improvise over pieces of music. Of course, there's a lot of variety out there. I mean, I know that you can, in jazz, that you actually improvise over each chord that is being changed, which takes a little bit more work, but it's all doable. But anyway, the methodology I teach basically helps them to understand how to do that and be able to turn a song on, find the key. Within two or three strokes, they can tell if it's major or minor. Boom! Then they start playing their solo all over the neck. Okay? Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. edsguitarlessons.com. Check me out. Check out all my YouTube videos. I have quite a few that deal with a lot of different subjects. And hope you enjoyed this. If you have any comments, questions, put them down there. I get an email every time you do, and I'll try to answer as many as I can. Thank you. God bless. Have a good day.